Hi all, this is Archana here. Very good morning to all of you. Thank you for Day of Security for having me once again here. The topic that we are going to discuss today is around lessons learned phase of an incident life cycle. Now, typically, you must be thinking, what's so special around the lessons learned phase? And we will see in a while of what that special means. Now, taking a step back a little away, typically when you go into various conferences and if you're attending a cybersecurity conferences, you ideally would see, there's a lots of talk, tech talk that happens. And because of this, sometimes a myth gets built across us saying that, oh, this particular field looks very technical. But I am somebody who's from a non-technical, so can I even get inside the cybersecurity? So the answer to that we will see in a while. At when I kind of come towards an end of the presentation, we will see that cybersecurity is one beautiful career where whether you're a technical or a non-technical kind of a person, you definitely have some role to kind of be within it. So let's begin having said that. So let's step back again, a little bit away from the world of tech. Remember the pandemic that happened, the COVID-19 pandemic that happened. There was a lessons learned phase in that as well. There are many lessons learned phase which everyone had, whether you are personal, whether it is organization. And out of the various lessons learned phase, the typical first was around the digitization. Remember, when none of us could communicate, the digitization field got, every organization was started to fast track their pace of digitization. Whether it's in education, people wanted to ensure that, they cannot step back, the students couldn't step back. They needed to give them the platform where they could still continue their study when the pandemic is there, right? So likewise, if you come to a cyber incident world, every incident at the end, there is some lessons learned of why that incident happened, right? And when that happens, the crucial thing that we are going to discuss today at a high level, which is going to kick off a thought process, depending on wherever the audience, whether you're a CISO, whether you're an incident manager, or whether you are somebody who is working around in a security aspect of things, it's crucial for you to think that whenever there is a lessons learned, what am I bringing onto the table in a way that I'm not just fixing what caused the incident, but you have to think in a way that you expand your scope of thinking to other pillars of security in a way that this threat doesn't reoccur, or you either improve the posture. And we will see in a while with some case scenario of what I'm trying to talk about. So without getting delayed, let's get started. So this is what the agenda would look like before we kind of jump in. But thank you for all the audiences. I would park the questions as and when I kind of complete the presentation. If not, I will definitely reach out to you. You could reach out to me in this panel. So we'll begin with a little bit understanding around the news board, and then we will talk about, because I do see the audiences over here are somebody who is very new to the cyber world. So I definitely want to keep a minute understanding, making them understand what goes beyond the scenes when we talk about a cyber incident. And then we will straight away jump into the three critical things of what this presentation has to cover is around the lessons learned objective and what are the three steps that you should think about when you kind of even draft this lessons learned phase and what are the outcomes and benefits of it. Okay, moving ahead, let's begin for the people who are very new to the cyber world. Okay, I'm sure everybody, the conferences that you are attending today, you have some understanding around at least reading the news whenever there's a data breach across an organization, right? And when and these were just some of them, but what I want essentially at this moment for you to think is, when you are reading a news report on a data breach of any organization, what goes beyond your mind is a crucial thing that you need to ask yourself. And this will differ from people to people. Okay. So somebody who is new or somebody who's experienced, somebody who's working in the field will have the various questions. But at the top level, there are three questions that everyone would like to know. And this also goes till the CISOs level. Whether you're a CISO, whether you're somebody who is working in SOC operations, whether you're incident managers, whether you are even just a fresher who is coming into this on board, the three things that definitely you want to know when you read these news report, is what is the attack that they're talking about. You want to definitely know how did this attack happen, and you definitely want to know what was the impact that this particular data breach had, right? You definitely want to know these three key answers. And yes, there are many more that we want to learn, but at the basic level, you definitely want at the at a scratch pad level to know these three things. Now, I would like to tell you, when these reports gets published, behind the scenes, there is a tons of work that gets done. And this is what you see typically, which is getting executed at a SOC operation level, which is called security operation team. Okay. And I'm not going to deep dive into this, but this is just for an information for somebody who is new to the cyber world. Typically, when these reports are being sent, when somebody says there's a data breach, there are phases that gets executed technically behind the scenes. And as you see the inner loop over here, right? So that which is the detection, the containment, the remediation, eradication. This is a constant loop which gets worked by the technical team, who constantly works. Oh, there is an attacker within our network. We need to detect what did the attacker do? What is he doing now? How can I contain this threat? How can you eradicate this threat? Right? But once the incident comes to and set, at a stage where you kind of figured it out, why this incident happened, and that's where you see the outer phase, which is called post-incident activity. And this picture of the life cycle is taken from the NIST source, giving you a simplest example. But when we say post-incident activity, there can be various activities that can happen within an incident. So it could be either collecting any evidences, or it could be even, doing some sort of a lessons learned phase. Will come in a while, and the critical thing around is the lessons learned. Now, the thing over here is typically depend on the organization. How big is your organization? It either gets executed, this specific lessons learned phase either will get executed by the incident response team in itself. And you must be familiar with this term called incident response. But the best practices that I would advise from the experience that I come in from, it is always an ideal that this phase of lessons learned is given to a team. Sometimes there's a different team called incident management team. Bigger enterprises do have some team, something like that. But if you do not have, think about an opportunity that you could create a team, something like this, where who crucially just focuses on understanding the lessons learned phase and takes care of all the coordination and support that is needed to fix this. And it's always advisable that it's a different team to do this, because incident response team is highly technical team who are very busy in terms of always detecting the threats, staying abreast of the threats, containing the threats, eradicating threats. Okay. Having said this, this is what behind the scene a technical team would work. Okay. Now, moving forward, now that the technical team is working in terms of getting the, understanding of what did the attacker do within my network, and once they kind of figured out, okay, now that we are kind of wrapping up our incident, when I say wrapping up an incident, there's some understanding of what did the attacker do, how did they enter, some control mechanism has been done, some containment has been done, eradication of the threat is done, recovery of the threat is still ongoing. And after we feel that the recovery of the system is done, and that's where this phase comes in called lessons learned phase. So what's the key objective of this lessons for? It's a very layman language. If you understand about the lessons learned, it ideally tells you, yes, it's something, learning a lesson about why the incident happened. But if you see the picture, that the corner that I put, it is around taken from a SANS, and SANS is a beautiful curriculum that they have, and very simple way of understanding. If you see where this phase is sitting, is at right end of your incident response, right? And what is this process? What is the objective of this process? And again, when I say process, it's a systematic process. And what you're going to do in this phase is all about identifying what went wrong during incident. What was that caused the incident? And once you identify, it is very important to document this. And as you're documenting things, it should just not lie as an identification stage, but we want rather a team who's going to implement it. And when we talk about identification, documentation, implementation of all the things that we have learned, what are you going to implement? Because typically when an incident happens, there are tons of things that we sometimes we think there is a lessons learned. Giving a scenario, you would have figured it out. Oh, there was a vulnerability into the system through which attacker came in. Oh, this particular process didn't work well because the ACLs got a change. There'll be tons of technical discussions where you're going to focus. And if you're going to think about, I'm going to solve each one of them, there's no time. When I say no time, meaning you need to be very strategic in nature to ensure that the fix that you are going to implement it ensures that there is a reduction in the cyber risk at the organization level in a way, in a mechanism that the same threat doesn't recurrent, because nobody likes to get attacked twice, right? So this is where the objective of lessons learned phase. The key three things that you have to think about is, how do you identify what are the key things, actionable things that I'm going to work as part of my lessons learned during a cyber incident, and what am I going to implement of? Okay, having them, how you're going to do now? Giving you a scenario. We will come to a case scenario in a while to give you a scenario, to give you a glimpse of how this ideally has to work. But this is a very high level projection that I've made, saying the simplest way that you should think of how you could do this phase is implement a three-step process, no matter from which sector of organization it comes from. Whether you are a product company, whether you are a, it could be any, whether you're a government company, whether you are a, you just, depend on, you are coming from a medical company, right? No matter which sector of the organization, there's always a lessons learned phase that happens, because today cyber incident team is available in every single organization, and this phase is very essential to be executed. So how we are going to do work upon is high level. You should think about a very simple step, three simple steps you could do it. So one is, imagine when, remember this is a lessons learned phase, meaning you have been attacked by an incident, you have been breached by an incident. Okay. And there is a technical team who has been sitting and, figuring it out 24 bar the 7 on doing all the technical analysis of what did the attacker do. And when the phase comes that you are going to sit and talk to this technical team about, okay, so what did you learn? You sit down with the technical team initially to understand the data collection. You're going to confirm some of the facts with them. Now, when I say confirm from the facts, what are you going to confirm the facts with them? So because the technical team is going to pour with you a laundry list of things to you. Okay. So here is where you need to be very careful during the data collection stage of a lessons learned. And what are the key things that you're going to focus is, the first thing that you will focus is around, yes, definitely, what caused the incident? What is the root cause of this incident? Is it a vulnerability, or is it a machine just was left online on the internet? Or did my cloud protocols break? Or something was put into the cloud, which is a root cause analysis. You need to ask more questions. You need to build your questionnaires of templates to understand what was a root cause analysis. Second important thing, you need to also ensure that you document things, ask the questions back to the technical team around the attacker's actions. And I will tell you why. Imagine a scenario where the technical team, when they are analyzing the incident, when they analyzed an incident, why it happened, they came to figure it out saying that, hey, this time the attacker one has used a particular technique and a tactic which you have never seen in all these 10 years, which means it becomes a key action for you to document it, because the next time when the attack happens, you are well in advance to detect these kind of threats. And that is why to bring in this perspective of documenting things, collecting the facts of what were the attacker actions look like is also very crucial. And the third thing that you should also think around data collection stage is that what was a defender's action? When we say defender's action is ideally the incident response team who, in a way who is working endlessly, containing the threat, eradicating the threat, detecting the threat. And the defender's action has to get spanned across the people, process, and technology. What I mean by that, let me give you a scenario around it. So imagine an incident happened, cyber incident happened, and the technical team comes to you, or the incident response team come to you saying that there was a vulnerability which kind of exposed the system. So, and as they were discovering that, they figured it out, they didn't have the logs to kind of, they didn't have the right logs to even look into the compromised asset. So what is that saying to you? When the IR team or when the technical team didn't have the log to understand or they analyze it, which means it's a very big process gap that, they didn't have the logs. They couldn't even trace down the attacker's activity. So you see, every single thing has to get spanned across the people, process, and technology. At times, it also happens in a way that there is missing skill set that the team has in terms of even looking at particular logs or even to understand what's happening. So that becomes a well documented actions that to be taken place when we kind of document the lessons learned. And the next, once you collect all of this data across the radar, not just focusing on the root cause analysis, but documenting things, understanding things of what attacker did, what the defenders did, what you're going to next do is you're going to collect all of this data, categorize it, and prioritize it. And when I say categorize it, we will come in a way, it should not just be categorized to fix the problem, but it has to be categorized by expanding the scope. And we will come into while what are the scopes. And last but not the least, you will have to figure it out of how you have to implement. You need to run the actions, bring the appropriate teams into the discussion to ensure that the future strategies are getting built. And this is where, as I said, there are 10 things that, technically it comes out as a lessons learned, but out of 10, you have to think about what are the strategic things that I'm going to focus and what are the point issues which the team could address it. And this is where when you kind of categorize things between strategic and tactical is where which will be helpful for CISOs to develop the future strategies in a way that the threat doesn't recur. So having said a very high level of these 3-step process, and we will walk through these steps with a case scenario in a while, which will be easy to consume in your process. It's easy to understand in a while. So remember when I said, when you're documenting this lessons learned phase, when an incident happens, the key thing that everybody thinks about, okay, what is the root cause of this incident? Yes, so somebody tech comes and says there was a vulnerability lying in a system because of which attacker penetrated to the network, which is, well, that's a weakness of a system. Very good. Yeah, I kind of documented it and I'm going to have a fix for it. But are you going to stop there? Is a question. That is where you need to expand your scope in terms of documenting, remember the data collections to the various other pillars of your security operations. Meaning you need to ensure, you need to ask questions. When you said that, when the team says that there's no logs available, which means you're not compliant with regulations. Figure it out. Are there regulation gaps which the team had, did the team face when the data breach happened? Did the security policies that organization had, was there anything that didn't work well? Is that security awareness that I need to give within the team or training that needs to be aware at the company-wide level for people to ensure that if the attacker today are leveraging the compromised password, do people are aware in my organization that they need to keep constantly changing the password and in a way that it is a very complex, it's not an easy password to be given. So you need to expand the scope of the lessons learned phase, not just thinking around always from the fix of what the problem for the moment is, but expand it to the various pillars of your security operation. And that's what the CISO's job is to implement it, convert this to your strategies. And we will see this now with a case scenario. Okay, so whatever we have learned, and because this is just a presentation which is going to kick off your food for thought of why this we are talking so much around the lessons learned phase. The reason why is there are still many organizations who doesn't take seriously this phase, and the reason because they either will take seriously in a way that they will say, yes, we have identified of why this incident has happened, write on the report, close the report. There's no implementation. And the organization who say, yes, I do have this phase, I do implement this, but what are you implementing it? Are you implementing at the phase the attacker is trying to attack you? Or are you implementing on ensuring that you have the right key of actions that is being taking place and prioritizing on things? Let's take for an example the case scenario. Imagine for a minute now that you're all working for the incident management team and you're working all for this lessons learned phase. Okay. And the scenario given to you is around, imagine there is a company, ABC company, who is faced data breach due to vulnerability in a third party component. And the technical team have done very well their evaluation of why this incident happened. And this is what the root causes. They came out saying that, hey, there was a vulnerability in a third party component. Now, as a person emerging from a lessons learned phase, What are the key things that you will go back and think, and ask ask the technical team? One is, you knew that there was a vulnerability in the third party component, which means it goes back to a question that, okay, if there was a vulnerability, did the patch happen? Right? So you need to focus around what was a break that happened in my vulnerability patching process, that this was over not seen, and in a way that the attacker has come inside. So you need to definitely think around what was what was a break in my process, and it is not necessary it is always a break. Sometimes the process does not exist. So that itself becomes a strategic understanding, strategic lessons learned phase that you need to implement it. And this doesn't stop here. You need to remember, I said you need to expand the scope. Now, what I mean by expanding the scope, because this particular case scenario that we have dealt is around the third parties. As a CISOs, you need to think that, okay, so when this incident has happened for a X kind of a third party product, what at my organization level is the security risk being projected with the various third party softwares? Because remember, every organization will definitely somehow or the other way use a third party softwares. So you need to thoroughly vet, around all the third party softwares being utilized in your organization for security risk, meaning this becomes a very strategic plan for a CISOs to execute it within the year or the next year. It's a bigger plan that he has to execute, or not just he or she has to execute. And the third thing is, based on this, we need to have also in a way to build a prioritized risk-based approach. And it doesn't stop there. You have to expand your scope to ensure that there's a continuous monitoring where or which or part of my business unit within the organization are utilizing this third-party software. Are we monitoring that? What are the dependency? Are they updating it? Are they patching it? What is a risk evaluation looks like? You see, just with one understanding of why that incident happened, you're expanding your scope of lessons learned across various other operations, which has to get emerged as a business plan, which has to get emerged as a strategic plan for us to kind of keenly improve on it. So having said, I would take a pause for a minute in terms for you to digest of how important is this lessons learned phase, and the outcomes of all of these phase is definitely for a company is like, if you're rightly implementing this phase, if you're, there are, the companies that are not even having this phase, you should think about building this phase. And for the enterprises who are having this phase, how are you implementing is definitely, if you're implementing in a right direction, it is going to reduce the cyber incident recurrence. Remember, it's not that every company can say that I'm 100% protected because I have the well defined technology. It's just that when my time comes to be attacked, right, when I'm going to get attacked, and when attack happens, I want to ensure that the risk is very minimal, right? And this definitely at a CISO's level, this kind of kicks off as thought processing that I have invested in so much technology. How am I going to show the ROI benefits to this? And this phase will help for that, because when you are going to only implement key things, key strategies, which is, to be taken and prioritized, this definitely will give you the ROI benefits. And definitely last but not the least, it is a customer trust which you're building, because nobody likes, once the incident is out in the market, when you read the reports, sometimes it feels to an organization like we kind of lost the customers. But when you have the proper place, process in the place, this kind of makes you relationship very good still with the customer. And of course, not the least, the last three items is around, definitely it strengthens your cyber defenses, it improves your incident response capabilities, and it overall it helps you to mature the process. Now, when I come to the end of this, remember I said you like why this space is so important, and this is also for the people who are listening to this conversation, is because that there were some chats that people asked me, they were asking the questions, hey, I'm new to the cybersecurity, but I do not want to be technical. I want to see somewhere if there is a non-technical scope that I could do it. And this phase, no matter which is a team executing it, if you're a PM, this particular phase, whoever is executing needs to wear the multiple hats, right? So there's a lot of PM that you could, if you are coming from background of PM, you can think about entering the cybersecurity, implementing these phase for the organization, because this job really doesn't need a lot to be technical. But yes, having said that, little understanding around the cybersecurity world, but a lot goes in terms of a highly skilled communication, highly skilled documentation, highly skilled technical writers, highly skilled PMs, all the peoples coming out from these various roles can definitely join this session, or join this phase or join this team. So that's having that, we come to an end of it. But if there's any questions, please do reach out to me, and I'm happy to kind of cover this. Thank you all. Thank you, Day of Security, for having me once again.